Yes.
What's going on, guys? My name is Orphan. How are you all doing today? Today's video is going to be on Anthem. I've spent pretty much the entirety of this weekend playing the game. I have just over 30 hours, and me and my roommate, we grinded it pretty hard. Finished the story, hit some in-game content, grabbed us a couple of masterworks, and I am now here ready to share my experience. So we have a lot to unpack. So I'm going to get into this video. I'm going to start with the pros and I'm going to go into the cons. And the reason I'm starting with the pros is because that is going to be the shortest section, because it only gets worse from there. So as you'll probably see in the title of this video, I am hopeful for this game. I do really like this game. I wouldn't have 30 hours over the course of a weekend if I didn't. There's something here. It's gonna take a lot of time to flesh out, and I think that's the biggest point. A lot of these live service games, their existence, hinges on the fact that they will get better over time. Now, before I get into it, there's one quick thing that I want to make sure should be clear. There is a difference between accepting and enjoying content and wanting more as a result than there is putting out shit content and making it better as time goes on. That's a huge difference, and so far these live service games, they can't get that right. How many video games have you played where you finished it, or as you're playing it, you're just thinking, man, I hope this goes on for 10, 20 more hours because I really enjoy what I'm playing. That's the essence of a good game. The core is there. Adding on to it is only a plus. These games, the Anthem now, Destiny when it came out, Division, they release in a state that it's barely holding on by a thread for any semblance of good gameplay and a good experience. And for the hardcores, that's going to be enough to keep you playing, but for the average person, it's not. And they are still hanging on to this idea that we're going to add stuff, it's going to get better later, and it's really bad. And Anthem is unfortunately a victim of that same mentality. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So first pro, as I said, over 30 hours of playtime, so this is everything I've seen with that time. The gameplay is the first big draw. The feeling of the javelins, the abilities you have, the guns you're able to use, for the most part, I'll go into that. It feels good. The combo system is very nice. If you're a fan of Mass Effect, at first glance, you'll easily be able to see that that's what this was inspired from. And I would say just built upon slightly. But the gameplay is meaty. The core is there. When you're shooting stuff, it feels good. When you're throwing abilities at stuff, it feels good. The melee classes, when you're up in the enemy's faces and, using your javelin till its fullest potential, it feels good. And I mean, at the very least, that's a good core to have. But yeah, it feels very good. The traversal system is another big point. You can fly. As I stated in the impressions when I played the demo, there is no other game that has captured mobility to this extent. No other game just lets you jump and start flying, and that's I think that's a big plus to this game service and to the design and the verticality of levels, and the various options they can take for mission design because of that. And I hope it is something that's built on in the future. When they release new areas, I really hope it's something that they can actually utilize and even make it feel even better. But as of right now, it's one of the game's biggest strengths. And the final pro is the graphics. The game looks incredible. There's a couple times when I'm playing and I'm flying around, and specifically when the open world area that you're in is like really sunny, because the weather is dynamic. It can change. It can rain. It can get dark. It can get like windy. You can see that all the foliage is blowing. But when it's sunny specifically, it's beautiful. The game is it's very beautiful. There's no getting around that. The game is very much a looker. So now we get into the massive list of cons and all the reasons that frustrate me, to no end as I'm playing this game and trying my hardest to just enjoy it as much as I can. Technical issues are the biggest things plaguing this game, outside of content, which we will get into. Loading screens. If you've followed Anthem to any degree, pretty sure this is something you know about. The loading screens they're absolutely fucking atrocious. They're not even just mildly irritating. It's not an instance where, it's all gameplay up until, when the game loads on very rare occasions, like some games, and the load is brutal. You are loading all the fucking time. When you load into a mission, there is a load screen. If you go into the forest to change your loadout, your weapons, whatever you need to do, there is a load screen going in and coming out. When you are in a mission, there are certain subsections of the map, like little caves. Those require loading screens. If you get booted, you have to go through a loading screen to get back into the game. It is unbelievable how many loading screens you sit through. Angry Joe actually did a comparison. He played a mission and he cut up the footage for all loading, and for the actual gameplay of the mission, the loading screens took up more time than the mission. That is unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. I was joking with my roommate the other day. I said they developed this game on like a fucking 1990s Mac. Like, the hardware they used is just so primitive, and I haven't seen a AAA game, in recent memory that clearly felt like this was developed on some other gen. But there's so many things that contradict that. The graphics are beautiful, but then you get to the technical side and it's like they developed this on a PS2. It's unbelievable. The disconnects, massive. One of the biggest issues. It might even be the biggest issue for the experience I had over this weekend. The disconnects were insane. Me and my roommate, we were playing together for the majority of the weekend. In one instance, I kid you not, we both disconnected twice. So he blue screened, which on a PlayStation side is when the game hard crashes and you have no say in it. He blue screened. I disconnected normally, so the game booted me to Anthem's main menu. We both get back into the mission. He then disconnects in Anthem in the actual application, and I get a blue screen. In the same mission, we had to join twice each in the same mission. And did I mention, when you're in a mission, if the game decides you're too far away from your teammates, it will force teleport you to them. And guess what that means? Another loading screen. The disconnects were insane. There were times when I was trying to get into a mission and it would DC me while loading 3 times. I kid you not. Earlier, before I went to sleep yesterday, I tried to play the harder raid stronghold. I couldn't get in. I was about to give up because of how many times the game booted me. And I have a pretty good amount of resilience. Like, I can tough this stuff out, but it started to get to points where I was like, man, do I want to just get off now? Because this shit was unbelievable, man. The loot system. The loot system is so fucked right now. It seems like they just slapped together some items and a system for inscriptions where you can get passive bonuses and just said, yeah, items can drop with whatever the fuck they want. You got a pistol that the Colossus Javelin can't use that can roll with autocannon damage. That makes no sense. Only the Colossus can use the autocannons, which are miniguns. But a pistol rolled with the inscription for autocannon damage. So the Colossus can't equip a pistol to get that bonus. We'll use another class, you say, who can use a pistol. Well, the other classes can't use autocannons. So you have a pistol with an autocannon buff that they can't use. What the fuck is that? Like, what? It's insane. You get so many useless inscriptions on gear pieces. In most cases, on the higher end gear, like Masterworks, you roll 4 inscriptions. In most cases, 3 of them are gonna be absolute shit. And the one you get might be subpar at best. There's no reroll system. You just have to get the weapon again as a world drop, or craft it. And the amount of crafting you would have to do to even see 2 decent inscriptions. It's unbelievable. Masterwork items require 25 embers to craft a Masterwork. Masterwork embers are very hard to come by. Incredibly hard. To give you perspective, there are some challenges in the game that require you to beat like 100, 100 titans. And titans are some of the biggest, toughest enemies in the game. What do you get for completing that challenge of killing 100 titans? Like 10 masterwork ember. That's not even half of what you need to craft one single masterwork. Oh my god. Oh my, mission design. Same thing. It's uninspired, it's repetitive. You do the same 3 objectives. Now, me personally, I can stomach through these things in loot games. I will not make an excuse saying that these games need those, but I understand why they're there. So I can stomach through them. But for the average person, there's very little variety. You have 3 things you're going to be doing. You're going to activate an objective and stand in a green circle until a meter fills up. You are going to collect echoes and bring them back to a central point, or you are going to pick up relics and bring them back to a shaper. That is the only thing you will be doing outside of killing enemies. Every single mission. The only missions where some variety is changed up is the strongholds, and even then it's masked. So you might not be bringing shaper relics to the main one. You might be grabbing canisters to plant at a door. It's still the same thing. Mission design can definitely use some sprucing up. I would imagine they plan to add different things later. They've already released a roadmap that shows everything they're planning to do for the rest of this year. It looks promising, but you know, when you're playing the game now, who wants to be looking at, you know, the month of June and say, oh yeah, that's a change that I'm looking forward to? Well, that's fucking 4 months away. Oh, it's lack of content currently. The end game for these games is supposed to be the big draw. Currently, once you beat the game, the only real options to tackle end game content for sufficient loot is legendary contracts, which only appear once per day per faction. There is a way to maximize these if you have friends to play with, but let's assume you're running solo. That's 3 chances at high-end loot. Now, they've made changes recently to where doing these legendary contracts on Grandmaster 1 or higher will guarantee you a masterwork. Again, you only get 1 per day. Outside of that, you have just free play, doing world events and hoping you get one as a world drop. You have strongholds, which there are only 3. One of them is literally a repeat of the final mission. Beat for beat, you do the exact same thing. Same boss, same layout, same thing. It is the final mission, just titled as a stronghold. Very, very uninspired. And it's also the hardest. So if you're trying to do it on tougher difficulties, when you look at efficiency versus time, in most cases it's just not worth doing. Most players run the first stronghold that was given to us in the demo, the Tyrant Mine, because that's the easiest one to get through. And when you're trying to get loot, you don't want to spend 2 hours in a stronghold for just maybe 1 guaranteed masterwork drop. That's not very efficient, so people just end up running the same stronghold, whichever one is the easiest. The cosmetic system. At first glance, it looks like it's fair. You know, you earn coins in game, you can buy cosmetics with either real world money, or you can buy them with the in-game currency. As you're leveling up, you'll complete challenges that'll give you 800 coins, 1,000 coins here and there, and you'll start building them up. You're like, yeah, you know, this is okay, I can work with this. Soon you'll realize that a lot of the challenges are one-time completions, which means once you get the coins, you can no longer do that challenge. The bulk of the coins will come from the alliance system, which is this weekly check for how much XP that you and your friends accrue. And at the end of the week, based on that amount of XP and what alliance rank you get, it will give you coins. And for your top 5 friends, the highest contributors will give you coins. So the first week is probably gonna get ready to round out soon. I would say that I might get around 10 or 11,000 coins for this, with all of the contributors being around level 10, which is pretty high. So that is your only real source of like consistent coins. But again, a lot of the challenges are one-time completion. As I said earlier, you have the big challenges like kill 100 titans. That'll give you like 10 masterwork ember and like 2,000 coins. You can't do anything with 2,000 coins. You can buy a couple blue or green embers, which are extremely low level, and if you're in game, you won't use them. You wouldn't need them. So you'll mass enough coins pretty much to get one of the special armor sets maybe once per month, maybe. Other than that, you're gonna have to shell out some money. It is. Man, the enemy AI is very, very bad. Very, very bad. Sometimes they just stand around letting you shoot them. Other times they'll catch you when you didn't even think they were looking at you and just insta-gib you on higher difficulties. I've seen clips of people literally just standing in front of an ad, shooting it, and it doing nothing but running back and forth. Enemy AI is terrible. It's absolutely terrible. Sometimes it's challenging, but it's very inconsistent. There's a low number of factions, so technically there's 4 factions in the game. You have Outlaws, Dominion, Scar, and you have whatever the little swarm spiders are called. Through the majority of the mission, you fight Dominion and Scar. That's it. So it may as well be two actual factions. You deal with the bugs in free play some, and in the Tyrant Mine Stronghold, the second half. You rarely ever see Scar. By the end of the game, I had completed a challenge for killing 500 Dominion, Scar, and Outlaw. That was the challenge. I had completed Dominion and Scar, but I still needed like 200 Outlaw kills. The game just doesn't really give you them outside of a specific NPC's questline. Speaking of NPCs, Fort Tarsus is very lifeless for the most part. The story was alright. It was a solid story. It wasn't anything too crazy, but it was enjoyable. I liked it. The main characters that the game wants you to care about, they were enjoyable again as well. But all of the rest of the characters, they're just a drag to listen to. They have dialogue that advance the faction system, but in most cases you're gonna find that it's not worth it to stand there talking to them. The facial animations are much better than Mass Effect Andromeda at least. But yeah, the NPCs that don't really matter, extremely lifeless. They're not interesting in the slightest. The down system is a massive one. So when you go down in the game, you have to be revived if it's a no respawn zone. Under no circumstance could you take any actions if you are not revived. You can't even open your menu. So we got a chance to see firsthand why this is exploitable. Me and my roommate, we were going to play the Heart of Rage Stronghold on hard. And we were probably doing it a little too early. So we were struggling on the Titan. We kept going down, and when we finally beat the Titan, I actually got my first masterwork drop. That was my first drop. I saw the orange emblem. And what happened? As the Titan was defeated, we were down. So the 2 guys in the stronghold, they walked over to our body, they started to shoot at our body, and they just flew off. So what does that mean? We don't get up at no point. The game doesn't recognize, yeah, the boss was beaten, we'll put you back in a spawn zone so you could hold square and respawn. No. You can't get up if they don't revive you. You can't quit the mission if they don't revive you. So you would just sit in that down state until the mission was done. So we had to force close the application because those guys wouldn't revive us. Unfucking believable how something like that makes it into the game. I can't. It's like these guys at BioWare they developed the game in like a year, and all of that time spent was thinking of content they could use later down the line. So they have the content, they're just holding it hostage, I guess. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. But it just, so much in this game was an oversight, and you just think there's no way that this type of stuff wasn't thought of, at some point in design. In free play, there's no waypoints. You can't select waypoints, so if you're flying to a specific space on the map, you have to pause the game every couple seconds to see if you're heading in the right direction. A lot of the landmarks aren't super identifiable, so you can't really remember where to go, like, just naturally. There's no fast travel in free play. You can't jump to certain points that you can split. When you go into free play, there's 3 different spawn points that you can spawn in on. But when you're actually in free play, you can't fast travel to any of those. So, as much as I love the flying, free play can feel a bit wacky at times. Oh man. The GM scaling is bad. The jump from hard to GM1 actually felt very rewarding. It felt like you were actually progressing. You could feel your character becoming stronger. The jump from GM1 to 2, way different. It's night and day. Like, the enemies are way tougher. Even when you've started to accrue some masterworks in GM1, enemies are way tougher. It just does not feel like a proper jump. Diablo has this slowly progressing system where there's 13 torment levels, which are all of the levels after your basic, normal hard. So you got torment 1, 2, 3, etc. each jump feels like one jump above the other one. It doesn't feel like going from Torment 1 to 5. That's ridiculous. It's not smooth and seamless. So they need to fix that as well, which to my knowledge, they've already changed since before the game came out. So before the game actually came out, they had a different scaling and they've changed it, but it's still really bad. There's times where abilities don't work properly. My very first masterwork component is apparently bugged right now. I'm supposed to get a bonus to weak point damage when I hover. It says 0 because it's bugged, so they turned it off completely until they fix it. So that's awesome. There's another ability I have that makes it so when I'm hovering in the air, if I hit an enemy with the ability, I'm supposed to instantly gain a charge back. That has a 5-second cooldown. There's times where I haven't used the ability within like 10 seconds. I throw it, hit an enemy, I don't get my charge back. I've seen my roommate, he said a few of his masterworks, there's times they don't activate. The abilities just seem bugged, when you're supposed to be getting these special bonuses. You're not getting them. Oh man, that's for the most part, that is all of the big stuff. As you can see, there was a massive list of cons. Like I said, I want to state that I like the game. I'm sticking with it because I understand what these games entail. I enjoy what I'm playing. It's only going to get better. Now, that is not a sales pitch. If you were to ask me, would you recommend this game to someone who is not as hardcore as I am, I would say no. Do not buy the game until a ways down the line. A lot of these games, they like to do that fucking Ultimate Edition bullshit where essentially if you buy the game in 6 months from now, you've got way more for your $60 than someone who invested day one. They had to endure no content. They had to endure a plethora of problems. They had to endure slowly being drip fed the content. While in a year from now, when all that shit is fleshed out, when a lot of the problems are fixed, when new stuff is added completely, you are paying the same price or potentially less for all of that. So this is one of those games I truly believe, if you're interested in it, just play other games in the meantime. Buy this game after a massive expansion update. It's not worth currently investing into unless you 100% understand what you're getting into. And if the tone of my voice in this video was very monotone, it's because that's how I feel when I have to talk about this game. It's so disappointing. I enjoy it. Like I said, I play it, but it hurts. It's like seeing your son. He comes in from school and he tells you he's gonna do better in math class, and he comes home and he has a fat ass F on his report card, and you're just like, what happened, man? What happened? It's just disappointing, man. It's very disappointing. So yes, thank you guys for watching the video. If you've played Anthem, how do you feel about it? What are some changes you would make? What are some things you would like to see change? Is the game a deal breaker for you? Did you finish it? Let me know all this stuff down below. I want a discussion. I want to get your guys' input. So sorry for the long video as well. I had to get all this stuff out there. So thank you so much for watching again. You guys take care, and I will see you next time.